The Detroit Lions offense has been struggling massively through the first 2 weeks of NFL play. They haven't been scoring enough points. They haven't been good enough in the red zone. They can't seem to sustain drives when it matters, and it has now cost them their first game of the NFL season. After an offensive struggle showing against the Los Angeles Rams in week 1, the Detroit Lions came out and they struggled yet again in week 2. And for an offense that through the past 2 years has been top of the NFL in scoring, in red zone efficiency, and third down conversion rates, this offense is struggling massively. It's an offense that has a lot of great weapons with Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, and yet for one reason or another, they can't seem to score. So today, we're going to take a look at this offense. We're going to take a look at what's been going wrong, take a look at their biggest flaw and their biggest issue as an offense, and talk about how fixable it is, how quickly it can be fixed, and whether or not is going to be detrimental to the Detroit Lions in 2024. Because honestly, if this offense doesn't turn it around, the Lions are going to be in trouble. They will not repeat as division champions, and they will not make a deep run in the playoff like we all thought that they could. So let's start off with the offense in week 2. It really struggled. The Lions scored 16 points through 4 quarters, had 2 turnovers, and had over 50 passing attempts on the game. That is a offensive recipe for failure for the Detroit Lions. 50 plus passing attempts is not what the Detroit Lions are built on. It is not what the Detroit Lions are built to do. And I think a little bit of it is that the Detroit Lions got caught up in their own hype, right? They got caught up in the Jared Goff chance. They got caught up in the Ben Johnson hype. They got caught up in the NFC Championship run, in the, Jameson Williams breakout campaign, in the Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta all-pro nods, that they forgot their identity a little bit. Ben Johnson wanted to throw this football. He wanted to show off his new $212 million quarterback. He wanted to show off his new $112 million wide receiver. He wanted to show off his massively now highest paid offensive tackle and one of the highest paid offensive lines in football. So they came out and they threw the ball a lot. But in doing so, they forgot that that's not their recipe for success. That's not how they win football games. They win football games by running the football, being efficient through the air, and passing the football 25 to 30 times in a game at max, but being very efficient with those passing attempts, right? Wearing out the defense with the run game, wearing them out with David Montgomery, and then gashing them with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and Jameer Gibbs. That is how they put up points, and that is how they win football games. And they're not doing that right now, right? Going back to week 1, the Detroit Lions scored 26 points, but they only scored 20 of those points in regulations. They had 1 turnover, which was an interception by Jared Goff, should have had a second one, which means they could be 0-2 right now. And they've missed several opportunities in that game to convert and extend drives, to score within the red zone. And that has been their biggest issue. Their passing attack has been hurting the Detroit Lions more than it has been helping them, despite their wide receivers being quite good to start the year, right? The rushing attack has been really good. They have 58 carries through 2 games, 302 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. As a offense, they are averaging 5.2 yards per carry behind Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. The rushing attack has been phenomenal, but they aren't running the ball nearly as much as they should, and they aren't relying on that ground game nearly as much as they did in years past. The passing attack, Jared Goff is 52 for 83 on the year, a 62% completion percentage, which is the worst of his career so far, throwing for 524 yards, a single touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Again, could have been 4, if not more, and that's despite Jameson Williams having 200 receiving yards through the first 2 games. That's despite Amon-Ra St. Brown having 132 receiving yards through 2 games of the season, right? Our wide receivers are playing good football. They're getting open, right? If you were to tell anybody a couple of weeks ago that through 2 weeks, Jameson Williams would have 200 yards through the air, about 50 more on the ground, and be leading the Detroit Lions in offensive yards, you would probably assume that this offense is putting up 30 to 40 points a game, and that just simply isn't the case. And the biggest reason for that is the red zone. If you don't believe me, take a look at the offensive totals, the offensive yardage totals through the first two games as compared to last year. This year, the Detroit Lions in week one put up 363 yards as an offense, right? Against the Rams, 363 yards. Yes, that counts for overtime, but those still go to offensive yardage totals. And last week, and I guess technically yesterday, the Detroit Lions put up 463 yards of offense. They put up nearly 500 yards of total offense on the day and put up 16 points to go with it. As opposed to last year in week one, they put up 368 yards, which is right around the same, and then 418 yards in week two versus the Seahawks, despite putting up 31 points in their season two and or in their week two season opener from a year ago. So they're actually moving the ball better than they did a season ago. And to go along with that, looking at third down conversion rates, the Detroit Lions right now are at about a 47% conversion rate on third down, which ranks them eighth in the NFL. Last year, they finished 11th in the NFL. So by the numbers and in comparison to other teams, their third down efficiency is up from last year. They're gaining more yards than they were last year. So if you're gaining more yards and you're better on third down, how are you only scoring on average 18 points a game in regulation for being such a high powered offense with so many weapons? Well, like I've mentioned before, it is the red zone efficiency. Their biggest issue by far is their play in between the 20 end zone. As of right now on the season, they are 3 for 11 for red zone efficiency, a 27.3%, ranking them 27th in the NFL. Last season, the Detroit Lions were 41 of 64 in the red zone, 64%, ranking third in the NFL. In week two, the Detroit Lions were 1 for 7 in the red zone. They went 7 times to the red zone. They were within 20 yards of a touchdown 7 times on Sunday, and they scored one of those times. They had 2 turnovers in the red zone, and they were just not good, right? Those 6 missed opportunities is a difference of 42 potential points, right? And yeah, I understand that they scored some field goals in those opportunities, so it's not exactly 42, right? Those numbers are a little bit different. But realistically, the difference between going 7 for 7 in the red zone and 1 for 7 is 42 points. The Lions were in position to put up 42 points on Sunday with the yardage that they gained, with the opportunities that they put themselves in, and they walked away with 16. That is the issue, right? The turnovers are certainly bad. You don't want your quarterback to throw interceptions, but being 1 for 7 in the red zone is inexcusable. With the offensive line that you have, with the running back duos that you have, with the wide receiving and tight end rooms that you have, 1 for 7 in the red zone is not acceptable for the Detroit Lions offense. It is quite frankly the worst offensive showing I have seen from the Detroit Lions in probably well over a year, dating back to that Baltimore game in week 7. It is just unacceptable, right? You have a highly paid quarterback who can deliver the ball well. You have 2 great wide receivers, an all pro caliber tight end, 2 great running backs in what is probably the best running back room in all of football, and an offensive line that is easily number 1 in the league. You could get into the red zone and probably run straight down their throats every single play like you did versus the Rams and score a touchdown. But like I said, I think that they got caught up in their own hype. I think they got caught up in the Jared Goff contract. They got caught up in the St. Brown contract. They got caught up in the Jameson Williams breakout campaign, and they wanted to throw the ball. They wanted to be flashy. They wanted to be on Sports Center. When in reality, they need to start scoring some points. So looking at this offense overall and comparing it to last season, right, when the offense was top 5 in the NFL, they're gaining more yards on a game to game basis. They're better on third down from game to game. They are having more yards per attempt on the ground every single game. They have more rushing yards per game than they did last year, being the second best rushing attack in the NFL last year. So, with all of those metrics, you would think, hey, the Lions are probably doing pretty well. But in reality, They really aren't. In reality, the offense is struggling. They're struggling to put up points. And until it's fixed, the Detroit Lions are going to struggle to win games. Next week, they go to Arizona versus a high powered offense that just put up over 40 points on the Rams. They're going to have to score points in order to win that game. They go to Seattle or they welcome in Seattle. That's an offense that can score points. They have to score to win football games. Now, luckily for the Detroit Lions, they have all the pieces in place to be successful, right? They have all the pieces that they need to improve the red zone offense. And if we are going to take a look at anything from years past, the red zone offense can get better. They were ranked third last year. They were ranked fifth in 2022. The red zone offense can get better. The red zone offense probably will get better. And when that happens, I do think the Detroit Lions will look like the dominant football team that they should be. Offensively, their numbers are actually pretty good, right? If you ignore the turnovers and you ignore the red zone stuff, they're a pretty good offense. They move the ball really well. They rush the ball really well. They pass the ball pretty well for the most part when there's not too much pressure on the quarterback. There's a lot to build around and a lot to work with. And I fully expect Ben Johnson to come back next week with a revamped red zone plan. And I expect the Detroit Lions to be much, much better versus the Arizona Cardinals. With all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below your opinions on the Detroit Lions' success or failures as an offense. Let me know what you think the biggest issue is, whether it's a player, whether it's a scheme, whether it's a coach. I'd be curious to hear your guys' opinions. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If you have yet to subscribe to the channel, please go down below and do so. Helps the channel out a ton. And of course, hit the bell notification so you never miss another upload. And go watch another video. It helps the algorithm out a ton. And of course, helps the channel out even more. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go live.